Go ahead, anytime. All right, good evening. I will call the Tuesday, March 21, 2023 Urbandale City Council meeting to order. Welcome, everyone, and I'll ask the clerk to take roll call, please.
Blake.
Here.
Marbury Montgomery. Here. Kroll. Here. McBurney.
Here.
Obrecht.
Here.
Thank you.
Okay, please stand as you're able for the Pledge of Allegiance. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Urbandale is a national leader in character counts, endeavoring at all times to promote and model the principles of trustworthiness, respect, responsibility, fairness, caring, and citizenship. In conducting tonight's meeting, we expect that all participants will act in a respectful manner consistent with these principles. Item 2 is to approve the agenda. Motion by Blake. Second by McBurney. Discussion, please vote. All right, that passes. Item 4, Citizens Forum. This is the opportunity to speak to the council on something that's not a part of tonight's regular agenda. Would anyone like to address the council at this time? All right, seeing none, we will move forward. Item 5, for the adoption of the minutes, first, or only from the March 7, 2023 meeting.
So moved.
Motion by Kroll.
Second.
Second by Obrecht. Discussion, please vote. All right. We got the old screen up, I think. There we go. Yep, that passes. All right, thank you. Item 6 is the consent agenda. Then there are items 1 through 11 for approval.
Motion to approve the consent agenda.
Motion by McBurney. Second by Blake. Discussion, please vote. Pardon?
I was. Yeah.
Motion by, Bernie moved, Blake second. All right, that passes. Thank you. Item 7, public hearings. First is item 7.1 is a public hearing to consider the 7301 and 7501 Hickman Road Amendment to the Planned Unit Development Master Plan for Lot 5, Charleston Court Plat 3. The public notice for this is published in the March 10, 2023 Des Moines Register, and ask if there are any objections to that notice is published. Alyssa, if there are any objections to the notice, Alyssa?
None.
Okay, thank you. Is there a motion to open the public hearing?
So moved.
Motion by Kroll.
Second.
Second by Carberry Montgomery. Discussion, please vote. No, okay. No, I think they had something here. The memory's off on the one I'm working off of. I'll use this one. Thank you. No, thank you.
Are you waiting for a display?
I think we're waiting for the vote on the open the public hearing, correct? There you go. All right, thank you. That passes. And introduce this is our chief planner, Christy Bales. Christy?
Very good. Thank you. We have one hearing tonight related to These two parcels technically platted together as Lot 5 of Charleston Court Plat 3. This is a PUD amendment for location purposes. We're at Hickman Road and 73rd Street. On the right is the Bucks Arena. On the left is the old Kmart, which has now been converted to indoor storage. Life Storage is the owner. The PUD amendment this evening applies only to this Lot 5, and it applies to a building setback request to be reduced along 73rd Street. In June of 2019, the City Council approved a zone change for essentially all of this area to be changed to PUD. It allowed for that option for the indoor storage, which has now been done, and the old AMCO building is now a clinic. So looking ahead, the developer owns this one parcel and the PUD amendment applies to this one parcel. The petitioner is seeking a reduction in the building setback along 73rd Street from 50 feet to 30 feet and has shared a concept plan with staff. That's not part of your public hearing tonight, but basically because of some easements that restrict that site, the green one being the box culvert that goes through there, and the red one being the sanitary sewer, being able to have 20 more feet of buildable area to the east helps with future planning and building footprints as they look ahead to how that property could be developed. Staff is supportive of the reduction. When we considered some of the uses that are already allowed in the PUD, there are some uses that, in thinking ahead to possible redevelopment opportunities for the Bucks area, to also just some uses that are fine, but you would want a larger setback from a property line. We discussed with the applicant, who is here this evening, Jared Johnson, if we could remove some permitted uses that are currently allowed on this parcel. And so with an agreement in that conversation, we are supportive of that reduction along 73rd Street, but would remove the uses listed in your staff report. And I'll flip over so you can see what those would be. Staff proposed the removal of some of the permitted uses on Lot 5 as follows: no convenience store or gas station, no eating or drinking place with any form of live entertainment or dancing. So you could still have an eating or drinking place, just not that live entertainment option. No car wash would be allowed, no live entertainment of any form with outdoor patios or serving areas. And like I said, he was agreeable to that. So staff recommends approval with those uses being removed on Lot 5. I will take any questions you may have. Jared's here tonight as well to take any questions.
Jared, have you thought about putting a Shakey's Pizza there maybe, or not?
Should have left it.
Yeah, no kidding. Any questions for the council?
So yes, with complete streets, potentially bike trail along here, this, 30-foot versus what we have isn't an issue at all, I'm guessing, if that sidewalk is turned into a wider trail.
Along 73rd,
Yeah.
I'm going to take John Larson's answer.
And then second, by doing this, what size of a building are we potentially conceptually looking at compared to keeping it at the current setback?
I'm Jared Johnson. I'm at 4816 147th in Urbandale. So as far as buildings, we did one conceptual plan. It was about 10,000 foot. With that, that's not anything definite. We were just trying to figure out kind of what size we could get. So max size is about 10,000 to 12,000, I believe. But I guess my intent is to try to get a build to suit on this. Hopefully get someone, a owner user, or we could build it, own it, and lease it back is really our intent.
Thanks.
Are you envisioning like a restaurant use or?
I've had a couple people look at restaurants, so I think that's a good possibility. I don't know for sure, but I think that's a possibility.
Sounds good.
Yeah, thanks.
All right, thank you, Jared. All right, this item is in public hearing. Would anyone like to address the council on this item, either for or against? All right, seeing none, there's our motion to close the public hearing.
So moved.
Motion by Kroll,
Second.
second by Carberry Montgomery. Discussion, please vote. All right, that passes. We have one item for consideration.
Motion to approve council letter 7376.
Motion by McBurney.
Second.
Second by Blake. Discussion, please vote. All right, thank you, that passes. Thank you, Jared, and good luck on that. We'd like to see some life back there, so that's great, so thank you. All right, item 6.2 is a public hearing to consider the operating budget for fiscal year 23-24. The public notice for this was published also in the March 10, 2023 Des Moines Register. Answer any objections to that notice is published.
There were none.
Okay, ask for a motion to open the public hearing.
So moved.
Motion by Kroll,
Second.
second by Carberry Montgomery. Discussion, please vote. Okay, that passes. And introduce this is our finance director, Nikki Lamb. Nikki?
Yes, Mayor, members of the council, tonight we have the 24 budget that's ready for adoption. I have a couple of slides that we go through every year, just the highlights. You have all been through this extensively. This has been on the website. This now has been adjusted for the Senate File 181 adjustments that have already gone through. I do apologize, as I saw in the council letter, the total, when we mocked it up the first time, had the original totals before those revenues were out. So the PowerPoint, which is attached to the council letter as well, is the current and correct numbers as well as what's on the website. So total operating budget, 66 million. That is an increase of 9.7%, most of which is personnel costs at that 48.8%. So it's actually a little bit down from where it's been in the past. We're normally about 50%. Other highlights there, the debt retirement costs, we are still paying off the one bond. This will be for the Fire Station 43 debt that was issued, which is $6.5 million that will be retired next year. Capital projects is the biggest swing. Obviously, we had the Public Works facility, the end of those projects coming through last year. So that is a 30% decrease. So all the numbers are kind of skewed because of capital projects. So it's still $41 million, so a big number, but yet last year it was significantly more than that. The water utility is included in our total certified budget of $171,350,000. So the last bullet point there is a total decrease of $5.3 million, mostly because of that capital projects drop. Other sides on the revenue, we are no change on the levy. So everything remains the same there. I already mentioned the Fire Station 43 bond being paid off in there, which will go in June of 24 is when that is callable. After the rollback change from Senate File 181, our total valuation growth was 5.67%. Everything else was staying the same. Commercial rollback stays the same. And multi-residential is that piece that was adjusted that is now considered fully residential. And the state backfill, this is the second year of the 3-year phase out of that. So that's $187,000 in lost revenue that they are phasing out in there. So next year is the last year of that. The other revenue item is the stormwater utility fee. There was an increase planned for $1 per month per ERU for properties on that, as we discussed during the budget. On the expenditure side, we have 5.5 positions. There are 6 full-time positions, but the one police officer that was being added is halfway through the year, so we count that as 5.5, even though it will be a full-time position, but only half of the year. Those are the departments listed there that have the other positions, all of which have been vetted through the budget workshops. Pension rates, we did see a slight decrease in 411, which is good news for us as well. No change on the IPER side. We saw a huge increase, as we talked through, in the equipment replacement fund. Council initiatives to implement hybrid electric merging wherever it makes sense and when we can actually get them is now being more of the issue. But we do have it in the budget to allow for that to happen for all of those fleet vehicles where it makes sense to switch to a hybrid. None of these are programmed as fully electric at this time. We're going to the hybrid as that initial step and trying to get those. And those are already, the first wave of them is on order. We have yet to receive any of them, but we'll continue to work towards that. So that in conjunction with vehicle prices are just skyrocketed. So there's up to a 30% increase on the total cost of vehicles that we've been seeing. And we've just been kind of absorbing that within the equipment replacement fund up through now. And so we're trying to head that off a little bit because there does not appear to be a rationalization of those prices. This seems to be the new normal. So we did go ahead and start to adjust for that so that we're better reflecting the true cost of state bid vehicles. Just the recap that we always like to see visually. Where's our tax rate levy looking? Same, not much excitement in this one. So we are staying at the $10.01. We are still maximizing the $8.10 on the general levy. That was that shift back between fiscal 19 and 20. We've left that in place, and it does appear that with any new legislation that comes through, that is a wise move because they're going to start ratcheting away from that general levy if that is part of several different versions of the legislature bills that are out there. So we'll continue to watch that. Nothing in the current offerings are going to affect the budget year that we're talking about. So we at least have a year to absorb and deal with that. The Senate File 181 was kind of an anomaly that it affected the budget we're in the middle of processing. So this is just our pie chart. Where does every dollar come in? Obviously, property taxes continues to be our biggest portion of revenue, and that hasn't changed in years. We're usually 1% to 2% different, but everything else stays pretty stable. And the same just as far as how those buckets shift amongst all of it from year to year, pretty stable. The thing that throws it off, whether or not other financing sources, is the one that is where we're going to call and pay off a bond if we bring in proceeds or refinance. That's what tends to skew it. So that's the category that has some variation. You can see in fiscal 20, we didn't call and pay off a bond in that one, but the rest of them we have. So that spikes that number up. Same side for expenditures. For every dollar we spend, this is approximately how those dollars are carved up. Typically, we're pretty consistent. Debt service is down a little bit this year because we have been calling and paying off those other bonds, so that helps. We try to push right at the 25%, which is our fiscal performance goal, is to stay at about 25% of our expenditures being to retire debt. So it's a little low this year because we've paid off $16.5 million, which is good, right? So we're still very aggressive in doing that, but our people in our public safety and public works divisions are where the bulk of our costs are, which is consistent with every other city. And then this, as I mentioned before, how it comes out. We're a service industry. People is where our money goes. We're pretty lean, and most cities will have between 50% and 80% of their budget is spent on people. That's our commodity. That's what we're providing service. So not uncommon. We do run quite lean, but still hovering right around that 50%. So we're pretty consistent.
Nikki, with adding positions, I guess it doesn't make quick sense to me how this number is going down.
All about the denominator, so that everything goes up, so the same number is a smaller percentage. Every time expenditures go up, that denominator changes. So even with changing nothing, it would still change.
Okay.
Even if you stay stable, because expenditures in total go up.
Thank you.
That's all I have. Pretty brief overview because you all have been through every step of this. Okay. Questions, though?
Yeah. So on the notice of public hearing worksheet,
The max rate levy one?
the one that has all the dollars, not the levy rate numbers, I guess. In our packets, it's what, page 3? There's line 13, there are other financing sources, took obviously that big jump up. I'm guessing that was potentially rec center dollars. It's now 67 million.
Correct. We assumed so in the current budget that we planned for, we had to assume those would be coming in because we didn't know what the timing of that was.
Right.
So, now
So is that
not
something we should correct now? That now that we know the passage of that vote, to what will that number be?
the revised 22 or the revised 23 column? Sorry, I don't actually have.
Yeah, so it's for budget year, fiscal year 24 is where that number's at, high.
That one is actually the Bucks. That's not
Okay.
the 24 column is the Bucks Arena.
Okay, So that's our
Bring
jump
that in
from,
somewhere in '24, so we always want to put it in there, so the timing of that. So if we don't put it in and don't use it, or if we put it in and don't use it, no harm, no foul. If we would suddenly have that move forward quite quickly and in the fall, we need to do it, I have to amend before I can do it. So we go ahead and build it in so that at any point during the year, it could be issued and could be passed on. It's not the revenue side necessarily, it's the giving the money out. Expenditures is where I'm legally responsible for staying within those numbers. The revenue can vary. So we go ahead and put it in there to assume that we plan, there will be a debt issuance related to that at some point in the next year.
Yep.
And we hope it will.
so then fast forward and say it doesn't happen in 24, now it's 25.
Yep.
When this report comes out again,
Then the revised 24 will say, whoosh, it's right
whatever
back
it
down,
is, okay.
and we'll roll it forward to 25.
So the actual 24 column will say the
It'll go-
67,
right.
or the,
It'll drop down to net of that 20-some million dollars.
okay. So I just want to make sure we weren't, seeing this big spike and bounce throughout it. If
Right.
there was
And-
and I thought it was the rec center because it's a 40,
No,
almost $50 million swing, so.
Right, so that one we actually put in, because we didn't have it in there last year, because we weren't sure what the timing at all would be, and now it's a little closer, and so in order, because it sounds like might be a fall type thing, we would avoid having to amend immediately for it.
Okay.
So it kind of depends on what the timing is. That was pretty pie in the sky back, 18 months ago when we were doing that before, weren't sure what the timing was. So anytime we know it's potentially coming, I go ahead and put it in, because it's not hurting us to do so, but it takes time and effectively 45 days worth of time with publications to amend. So if something needs to happen fast, I can't do it. So just
And
helps
we
us.
do, I'm guessing, have a budget amendment coming yet for this year sometime.
That's, as soon as this goes out, that's what I start on. So about April 15th is when I run all the reports to see where we're at.
Okay, thanks.
Any other questions?
Questions from the council? All right, we're on public hearing on this item. Would anyone like to address the council on this item? Okay, seeing none, I'll ask for a motion to close the public hearing. Motion by Blake,
Second.
second by Carberry Montgomery. Discussion, please vote. All right, that passes.
Move resolution 066-2023.
Motion by Blake,
Second.
second by Carberry Montgomery. Discussion, please vote. That passes.
Move resolution 054-2023.
Motion by Blake,
Second.
second by McGurney. Second discussion, please vote. All right, that passes. All right, again, thank you, Nikki, Curtis, and all the staff on getting us through this process. It's always an arduous process and one we spend a lot of time on. So thanks to the council as well for putting a lot of input in on this. And I think we can stand proud of this budget for this coming fiscal year. And we always have some headwinds on what may happen elsewhere, but we can only control what we can control, and I think we're doing a good job by controlling this, so thank you, everybody. All right, moving on then, item 6.3 is public hearing consideration of bids for the 156th Street traffic signals. The public notice for this was also published, it was published in the March 3, 2023 Des Moines Register, and ask if there are any objections to that notice is published.
There were none.
Ask for a motion to open this public hearing.
So moved.
Motion by Carberry Montgomery,
Second.
second by McBurney. Discussion, please vote. All right, that passes. And to introduce this is our Director of Engineering and Public Works, John Larson. John?
Good evening, Mayor, members of the council. This is our bid tabulation for the 156th Street traffic signals located at Meredith Drive and Waterford Road. Last Wednesday, March 15th, we did receive 2 bids for the project. We're recommending the low base bid from Iowa Signal in the amount of $917,769.69. Their bid is approximately $411,000 or 31% less than the engineer's estimate. And with the project, we basically be installing a new traffic signal at 156th Street and Meredith Drive, 156th Street and Waterford Road. Then we'll be installing fiber optic line between those two signals to interconnect them. And then we'll also connect the signal at 156th Street and Douglas into our traffic signal network. And we're anticipating all this work will be completed by November 30th. And then with this, we also did have an alternate to look at having fiber brought to the Barrett Bozen Park to allow for Wi-Fi in the future. Their bid was in the amount of $11,533. Looking at the additional cost for the equipment and everything, the total cost is around $16,000 to $17,000. So as of right now, we're not recommending to include that work. And then just kind of show you where we're at. At the bottom is Douglas Parkway. That's where we'll tie the existing Douglas signal into our fiber network. Up at Meredith, we'll install the new traffic signal, and then up at Waterford, again, will be a new traffic signal. We'll install fiber between those two signals, and then part of our redundant loop is to install fiber along Meredith and south on 156th Street, in which case we'll be able to tie our signals into that as well. With that, I'd be glad to answer any questions.
I guess I did not pay attention close enough to this till I was just making eye contact with Adam here. Because we saved so much money on this project, I guess I don't understand why we're not
It's
adding.
different funding sources. I can let Jan speak if you want some more, but basically
So-
that would come out of her parkland. It would not
So
come
the
out of that.
16, the whole amount would come out of parks and not,
Correct. And keep in mind that the 400,000 under their estimate is not what's in the CIP. We had like 1.1 million, I think, in the CIP, so there's not quite as much. That was the engineer's estimate. That was higher.
But we also had dollars in the CIP for utility improvements at parks.
Right.
Correct.
And so that's where to me, I was thinking the internet stuff was coming from was that piece, not, it's all coming from CIP, just which line? Not park funds.
You are correct. The utility fees for bringing any facilities into the parks is a CIP separate fund. As we're looking at what we get requests from the public is water, drinking fountains, electrical, and flushable restrooms. And we haven't really gotten any requests for Wi-Fi. So looking at $17,000, is that better used in other amenities? But we certainly are open to the directive of council.
My only question is that if it became a prerogative 2-3 years from now, would it still be roughly the same cost, or is it because we're tearing this up, this is the time that 17,000 would be more appropriate time to do it?
Yeah, that's what I was gonna ask. Thanks, Matt.
I would anticipate costs would be higher in the future.
Right. We were hoping for the economy of scale that they were installing the fiber right there in the area, that they'd just be able to come around the corner and do a little extra work.
So this is the cheapest time to do it if we're gonna do it?
Most likely, yeah. Unless all of a sudden prices start coming back down.
So obviously I'm in favor of it, of doing alternate one, so.
I am too. Just if it's the cheapest time to do it, well.
All right, well, we are in public hearing on this. Does anyone like to address the council on this item? All right.
if we want to add alternate one, what do we need to change on the list of items?
Well, let me close the public hearing first, and then we can get to the discussion on that. So, is there a motion to close the public hearing?
So moved.
Motion by Kroll. Second by Blake. Discussion, please vote. Okay, that passes. So to answer your question, Bridget, I think, and correct me, John, I would think we just approve the resolution with the addition of the alternate one.
Correct. Then the only thing we would do is redo the contracts and get them back to the contractor for signature. But correct, if you approve it, accepting alternate number one, we can take care of the rest of the process.
Yeah, so in all three motions, we just need to say with also accepting alternate one.
Yep.
All righty. You get to amend some motions tonight. So approve resolution 069-2023 with including alternate one.
Okay, motion by Obrecht.
Second.
Second by Blake. Discussion. Please vote. When Alyssa has it. All right, that passes.
And then move resolution 070-2023 with a bid total of $929,302.69.
Okay, motion by Obrecht.
Second.
Second by Blake. Discussion, please vote. That passes.
Move resolution 071-2023 with alternate one.
Okay, motion by Obrecht.
Second.
Second by Blake. Discussion, please vote. And that passes. All right, thank you. Item 7 is to establish public hearings. First is item 7.1, to establish the public hearing for the 2023 sanitary sewer lining program. Establish April 18 is that date.
Approve council letter 7374.
Motion by Obrecht.
Second.
Second by Blake. Discussion, please vote. That passes. Item 8.1 is consider the engineering services agreement for the 100th Street Adaptive Signal Coordination. John, answer any questions if there are.
I'll move approval of council letter 7368.
Motion by Carberry Montgomery.
Second.
Second by Kroll. Discussion, please vote. That passes. Item 8.2 is considered the purchase of the solid waste containers. Again, John, will answer any questions on this if there are.
Move approval of council letter 7379.
Motion by Obrecht.
Second.
Second by McBurney. Discussion, please vote. That passes. Item 8.3 is consider the equipment purchase for the engineering vehicles. John, do you have a presentation on this?
Just one quick thing to add, just kind of wanted to assure everybody, we are still looking at the hybrid and electric options, but as you've kind of learned through the police department, they're just not available right now. And with some things we've been looking at, it's still well a year out before they'll start to take orders again or consider them. And we're to the point, some of the vehicles, we've delayed them several years already. We're just at the point of needing to replace some vehicles. So just wanted to let everybody know we're still definitely looking at those options. And as they become more available, we'll be looking to go that route.
All right.
Move approval of council letter 7382.
Motion by Kroll.
Second.
Second by McBurney. Discussion, please vote. All right, that passes. Item 8.4 is consider the 2023 A Series A General Obligation Capital Loan Notes. Nikki?
All right. Mayor, members of the council, tonight we have the last step prior to selling the actual debt issuance. We are scheduled to sell on April 4th. So this is the piece that approves the official statement. So the draft copy was attached to your items. The advertisement of sale that was actually in the council letter, so that actually adjusted. These are capital loan notes, which is just a technical thing on the back side about publication of notice in case the legislation would pass in between our hearing, the publication, and the sale by showing them as capital loan notes instead of a bond. It took away that publication piece, so we had the option to pull out on the sale date if something goes crazy or another bank goes under or like rates are really bad. Or if the publication Under one of the legislative items, should it pass, it does not have a grandfather clause related to the items that needed to be in the publication, and we would have had to stop anyway and republish. So this allowed us the most flexibility. It's the exact same as a regular GO bond. It's just under the note statute instead of under the bonds. So it just gave us flexibility, knowing there was a whole lot coming at us. And the timing was kind of unknown as to when we were going to do it, the things with the bucks, all of these things were in motion. So when we set the pre-levy back in February, this was the route we chose to take. So that's the only reason you're seeing it worded a little bit differently. But I didn't catch in that we didn't need to do the directing advertisement of sale. So the actual corrected resolution is attached to all of your documents, but in my council letter, because this was done before I went on spring break, didn't get changed before we adjusted that. So we do not need to do an advertisement of sale. We just have to approve the electronic bidding process as normal and the official statement. And then the second item relating to the dissemination agreement with Piper Sandler. They do all of our postings to Emma, the website that we have to go put all of our information out there for bondholders. Those are the only things I wanted to talk through. Happy to answer any questions.
So in the oddity of the current interest rate market, how much flexibility do you have in pushing maturities out?
We can structure it however, so we accept, take all the bids, and they have a structure within the basic parameters that are laid out in the OS for what our maturities are. So they still have to mature out in the frame that we asked for. We have the option to always stop and rebid with these notes instead of the bond. So if we chose this is not the time to do that, if something really crazy happens on April 4th, we can adjust, but we can't mid-bid say, okay, well, you could go out. We would have to stop and re-go.
Like taking the 28 bonds and kept putting them out to the 33 or something, is that something you can do?
Whoever's bidding on it, we've seen that before, that they'll group them together in maturities that make sense for what their buyers are looking for. So we've seen it lumping. We can't change the end date, but within it, they can structure it however they want to as long as they meet the reissuance premium amounts.
Because our most expensive debt should be our largest amount, so I just didn't know if there was an option to push stuff out further.
It tends to be based on whatever they bid at. I mean, we don't define what the maturities we restructure based on what they bid.
Yeah.
Any other questions?
Okay. Any questions for Nikki?
Move resolution 064-2023.
Motion by Blake.
Second.
Second by Obrecht. Discussion, please vote. That passes.
Move resolution 063-2023.
Motion by Blake.
Second.
Second by Obrecht. Discussion, please vote. That item passes. Item 8.5 is consider the non-union employee salary schedules for fiscal year 23-24. And Aaron will answer any questions if there are. HR Director Aaron Freeman is here.
Move approval of Council Letter 7370.
Motion by Kroll.
Second.
Second by McBurney. Discussion, please vote. All right, that passes. And then item 8.6 is to consider the collective bargaining agreement with the Des Moines Association of Professional Firefighters, AFL-CIO Local 4. Aaron?
Yep, good evening. We are in the final year of a 3-year contract with the firefighters union. So this was an reopener for wages only. We are negotiating a 5% increase with a wage scale adjustment and then an increased lateral transfer pay too. One thing that we're finding with public safety positions is there's just less people going into those professions. So trying to attract talent that's already out there that's working for other local agencies is something that we've been focusing on. We've been successful with that with the police officers contract, for example, with the sign-on bonus for certified law enforcement officers. We've hired 4 since we implemented that in July of 21, which is really good for us. That doesn't typically happen. We're usually putting candidates through ILEA. So similar concept with lateral transfer with firefighters. If somebody has up to 5 years of experience, we'll match 1 year for every year of full-time firefighter paramedic experience. So we're hoping that we have similar success with that program. Other than that, we only negotiated wages. As I mentioned, this is the final year of a 3-year contract, and this is, all of our contracts are up at the same time. So next year, when I come to you, we'll be talking about every provision of all 3 contracts with labor, fire, and police.
All right. Thank you, Aaron. Any questions for Aaron on this?
Move council letter 7371.
Motion by Kroll,
Second.
second by Carberry Montgomery. Discussion, please vote. All right, that passes. That takes us to the end of our regular agenda. Item 9, mayor and council items. Amy?
I don't think I have anything.
Okay. Larry?
Checking, I don't think I have anything either.
Okay. Matt?
I don't know if I do too, unless Curtis has any updates on the legislature from our perspective that we should be worrying about.
Not this week.
Okay, good.
So absolutely nothing.
Stay tuned for your Friday.
Yeah, Friday update, we'll get
Okay,
that, so.
all right then, nothing for me then.
I'm not gonna break the cycle. So.
Oh, but I sure am. No one thought that I could keep my mouth shut. Well, first of all, I wanted to thank Nikki and her staff and the whole rest of the staff for shepherding us through another budget process. I feel like I started it a year ago, and it was really October, November with the CIP. So you guys really did start it a year ago. So you guys do such good work on that from beginning to end. So, and we had some curveballs thrown at us. We'll have more next year. So just thank you so much for that. I don't think Chief Johansson is here, but I wanted to thank the police department. There has been some excitement, for lack of a better word, out in my neighborhood, and the police have been very responsive, and it's been a situation for the neighbors and the police, and I really appreciate their professionalism in dealing with a difficult situation. And then I also wanted to thank Jan and her staff and everyone for the hard work on the Uplex. You know, I've been working on a project in that area in my personal and my council life for at least the last 10 years. And when I started, what I wanted was for there to be a decision. And, you know, first that was, are we gonna do a pool? Are we not gonna do a pool? And it ended up, are we gonna do a Uplex or not do a Uplex? And all that I really wanted was for a decision to be made. And I feel like over the course of the last 10 years, it took us that long, but a decision was clearly made by our community. And I appreciate everyone who engaged in the process from the beginning of my involvement to the end. But this is not the end, it's just the beginning of now figuring out what we're gonna do there, how we're gonna serve our community, how we're going to bring our community together. So I just wanted to acknowledge that whole process that we went through, and it honestly feels like a year ago that election was, but it was only 2 weeks ago. So that's my 2 cents on this, and yeah, so thank you to everyone for just about everything tonight. So that's my 2 cents.
Thank you, Bridget. Yeah, again, I wanted to comment on the vote too. So thanks for bringing that up, and thanks for your comments on that. But you're absolutely right. It does seem like it's been forever, but it's only been 2 weeks. But it was a process. We did the process to get there, and you know, I think as Matt said at our last meeting, it's a true representative democracy. What happened, and our constituents had sent a clear signal, but it's not the end. And what our job is to do is to listen to our constituents and represent them the best way we can as well. So we need to look forward and move forward, and I know this council and this city will do that in the best way possible. So thanks again. I mentioned to Jan the day after the election, but Jan, you're back. Thanks for everything you did through the process. You represented the project well. We gave the information, we were as transparent as we possibly could be to the voters and get the information out as much as possible. And that's the main thing is, despite what some people said, I think we were very transparent throughout the whole process as far as getting what information was out there so people could make an informed decision. I will also just say Saturday is a talk with officials. So when you're asking about whether or not we need to be worrying about anything, I guess I'll be watching for the Friday updates and I'll be bringing it up with our other elected officials on Saturday morning and encourage people to participate in that process too, from 10:30 to noon at the chamber office as well. So I have nothing further. So with that, we are at the end of the agenda. We are adjourned. Thank you, everyone.